Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review one of the summer's most anticipated movies for me personally, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And I'm going to put this right out there. The first two Conjuring films are two of my favorite horror films, and Conjuring 2 realistically might be in my top 5 favorite horror films. And it's in good company with The Shining, The Thing, Hereditary, The Babadook, and The Conjuring 2. That might be my top 5. Maybe I'll do a video at some point, but there you go. I was very excited that they're making a third one. I was very disappointed when I found out that James Wan was only doing story and producing on it and wasn't going to be directing this film, because he is so talented and brings so much to the table in terms of the direction in those films that give it like a next level feel. And him being replaced by Michael Chavez, who did The Curse of La Llorona, which was not a fan of. And there's definitely moments where he maximized some scares, but like it's not on the same level of quality. One positive, though, it still has Michael Burgess, the cinematographer of previous films, and also, big plus, Joseph Bashara is back doing the score, and oh, it feels like a Conjuring score. Right from the credits of, like, The Conjuring coming up the screen, The Devil Made Me Do It, and those strings going, yep, that really worked. And it still had that feel. And this film goes in a very different direction. This isn't a haunted house film. It's about a curse on a young child. And the film starts off with this exorcism. You have this young boy, David, played by Julian Hilliard, who pops up at a couple of times throughout the film. And there's some solid, well thought out scares a couple of times in the film. You have this opening scene, there's something in a bathtub that's pretty freaky. Later you have the waterbed scene that's in all the trailers. But this film really isn't that scary and doesn't really go for a whole lot of scares. It definitely goes for an eeriness and an unnervingness, and some of the scares just didn't scare me. But the tricky thing is, from like the first film, there's certain things where it's so terrifying and inventive in some of the scares that they did. And then the second one with the nun Valak and the crooked man and the creepy old man, like those are memorable and very distinct beings. This film goes in a different direction. I don't want to give too much away, but the creations, the creatures here aren't very memorable, and like one of them is just like a giant fat corpse, and it's just like, okay, and it's just like gray, creepy looking human bodies, and that's about it. It's not very memorable, not very. And then the real crux of this curse, when you get to it, there's not a whole lot of depth or interest in what was behind this, and you're just kind of like, this is a little underwhelming. And it wasn't particularly interesting. I do have to say, along with the score from Bashar, there's a great use of music for the time period. And there's one particular really creepy moment that reinforced a particular Blondie song. And I'm like, oh, that's creepy. And there's some moments, but really the big positive of this film is, and it's always going to be the ones of the proper Conjuring films, is the Warrens. Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga are amazing. And I love Ed and Lorraine, and their love for each other is so pure and genuine, and you feel the chemistry between them. And it's still a big driving force in this film, an even bigger part. And I really love that about this film, as I did in the past two Conjuring films. And even the opening of Annabelle Comes Home with them made me so much more interested, and that's really working for this film. And you have a creepy performance by John Noble popping up here, which was really solid. The opening exorcism sequence feels very Conjuring. But there's certain things about this film, like it's trying to do a bunch of different things, like as a courtroom drama, barely spends any time in the courtroom. It's trying to be more of like a detective procedural kind of thing, and they do some investigating, but it really relies on like heavy exposition dumps at times. And like the Asian actor who plays their assistant guy is literally just there to like I guess Shannon Kook. He's just like exposition blah, at you, and you're just like, okay. And you know, it has those tropes of like looking at old books and trying to find these things and finding backgrounds. And this one in particular, especially compared to the last two Conjuring films, really leans into tropes. And like there's even a sequence that very obviously is like the shot is right out of The Exorcist. And what I love so much about the first two Conjuring films being very unique on their own, this one kind of feels derivative of a lot of other things. And to be honest, I really didn't care about Arnie, who's the young man who winds up becoming possessed and put on, and like arrested for murder, and he's trying to plead that it wasn't him, he was possessed. I didn't really care about him and feel that connected with him or his girlfriend, played by Sarah Catherine Hook. And that also brought this down. And it's really disappointing for me to say, but I feel like The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It is just a solid horror movie. A solid film. And I wanted it to be great, and I just didn't feel that way. The dialogue feels very underwhelming and not particularly interesting at many times, and like I said, it spends a lot of time on exposition, and it's just like, okay. There's definitely some cool moments, especially with Lorraine. She gets some fun moments, and like Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are just so charming. So in the end, I think this is a solid effort. I appreciate them trying to do something different with the Conjuring verse. But those are my thoughts on The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.